Westlaw and Lexis are very similar in many ways when you search cases, statutes, and regulations, and to some degree, the overall core of law reviews. However, in law reviews and in treatises, that's where they diverge widely. So Lexis and Westlaw, their search interfaces are different. Some people prefer one over the other. If you go out into the real world and work, you will probably for many years until you end up on a partnership committee, be using the version that your company has chosen based on price. The one area where they diverge a lot is treatises, because West owns its own treatises, and or Thomson Reuters, their overall owner, and LexisNexis owns treatises as well as the Lexis Advance online database platform. So between those two, that's where you're going to see the most difference. So finding secondary sources here is fairly similar. You have content types, and secondary sources is one of them. And you see here some of the same things. American Law Reports is here. American Jurisprudence and Encyclopedias is here. I'm going over here, but just to show you, they have more encyclopedias in this database than Lexis does, but Lexis has a few state ones too. And then you have law reviews and journals. Let's start here with law reviews and journals. By the way, the treatises are also broken down by state, and that's going to be useful. And when we go to do treatises, I'll show you how that happens. Okay, so you get your various publications here, and you can start searching. Trying to remember if I did the same search. Yes, I'm going to do vaccine regulation. I have notes to try to move through this quicker. A couple of cases pop up because they always do, but I'm going to continue on till secondary sources. They're called filtered because I've already filtered them by picking law reviews. Now, they display the law reviews differently here, at least at first. So you can see by relevance that you're going to get titles. There's a couple of weird things here that are more bar journals, but soon you get a bunch of law reviews. Again, you have your same sort of restrictions here. Now, one thing different that I like about Westlaw is if I go to date here and say the last 3 years and apply it, it's going to come up pretty quick. I would like to see them apply these things automatically. That would be good. And again, you're seeing stuff. One thing when you do anything with a topic, say I'm looking at trying to get a new vaccination to market, and I'm in law reviews. Well, law reviews are about hot topics. And one of the hot topics has been childhood vaccination and anti-vaccine activists. So whenever you get into an area and you are looking at a narrow topic, you're going to have to push past all of the hot topics of the recent era. They are by no means irrelevant, though. So sometimes you may find yourself looking at those articles that are not on point, but they start from the same place. So and then they may end up at the same place because, if there's a COVID vaccine eventually, they're going to have to look at the issues of, of, of privacy rights, of other, undefined rights regarding immunization, particularly of children who whose voluntariness is in dispute between the state and the parents in these cases, because both the parent and the state are supposed to be looking at the child's best interest, and those they can't actually decide themselves. So that creates some conflict. But as you get through it, you're going to find some interesting material. Let's see if there's any other limits on here that are specific that I've mentioned. Some of these are kind of interesting. Publication name, if you're really looking for something. If you just want to filter out legal newspapers and other things, there's only a few that have drifted in, so that's not a problem here. Okay, now I said something about toggling back and forth between I'm going to clear my filter here, and I'm going to go ahead and do vaccine regulations, law reviews as a Boolean non-algorithmic search. The default is algorithmic, but all I have to do to turn it off is to put an obvious Boolean connector in there. And I'm going to TI, and I'm just going to do regulation to make it a little broader than if I put a finite S on there, and see what comes up. Now that I have done that, I've turned it into a title search, and apparently it's so narrow, it doesn't work. I can keep tinkering with it. Now I have everything that has vaccine in it, and I can begin to limit that search as I look through other things. Let me try something crazy here and see if anybody's gotten anything to print yet on coronavirus. This is not planned out, but this might be something that pops it up quicker. But you notice that it's gonna show me some case material here. Another thing is, and I may be interested in this because I'm doing secondary source stuff, but I see an amicus brief here. Amicus briefs to the Supreme Court of the United States kind of read like law review articles sometimes, so I might find some useful information here. All right, to wrap this up and not leave you here too much, I'm going to go back here and I'm just going to look at treatises. But I'm going to do this a different way. I'm going to go to state materials and I'm going to look at Kentucky. And I'm going down through Kentucky and I have secondary sources. So I'm going to look at all secondary sources here. And you see there's a whole bunch of Kentucky treatises. Many of them are for what West or Thomson Reuters now calls its Kentucky Practice Series. And I'm going to search public health here to see what kind of stuff is in the Kentucky treatises that help me determine something about public health. And in there, you can see under real estate, regulation to protect public health, and other things that may or may not be useful. So I'm going to click on that. Uh, and you see issues having to do with public takings. Now, in history, occasionally if there's a strong public health volume, it's the backup of a takings case. So in reading this, you might find that the Commonwealth of Kentucky could seize a property if it becomes a public health um, issue. Perhaps not with coronavirus, but that's happened before with diseases that were thought to be continually spreaded by stuff, and buildings had to be fumigated. All right. Hopefully, this shows you a little bit how to use secondary sources in order to find new information using your Westlaw and Lexis account.